Welcome back to Studio 5. Right now, we're diving into a PG-13 conversation involving the sensitive subject of intimacy. Now, when it comes to women and intimacy, fair to say there is a general conception that women are not as involved or as interested in sex. But everyone knows someone who doesn't fit that mold. So what's her secret? Laura Brotherson is a marriage and family life educator and also the author of a groundbreaking book on intimacy entitled "And They Were Not Ashamed: Strengthening Marriage Through Sexual Fulfillment." She has identified 12 secrets of the sexually satisfied wife. Before we spill those secrets, why do you believe being sexually satisfied in marriage should be every woman's priority?
Well, you know, marriage is like a flower and you really have to nurture it. And, you know, if you understand men, sex is a really important part of how they feel loved. And so if you want to nurture that marriage relationship, you've got to make sex a priority. And not just for your husband, but for your own personal wholeness and aliveness.
And that's an interesting point that you make in your book and that we're going to touch on, you know, right now in this discussion. But women can enjoy it.
Yeah.
It can be a positive experience. So is it a myth then that women aren't as interested or involved in sex as men are?
I think partly yes. Because we are wired so differently, we compare female sexual desire to a man, and you just can't do that. And so I think that we have similarly strong sex drives, but they're just so different the way they come about that we just don't know how to fully engage it and really understand it.
And what keeps women from fully engaging it and understanding it?
A lot of things. We'll talk about a few of them. The first one I would say is, well, what keeps them from engaging in it? There's kind of a lot of things. It can be relationship issues. It could be mental inhibitors, just thoughts like, oh, can the kids hear or whatever. There's a lot of different things. Physical things, not having a lock on the door. I think the number one thing, though, is that women have not fully grasped sexuality as part of their wholeness, as part of their beingness. And I think that that's kind of the underlying negative factor that affects all of that, this part of the relationship.
How big of an issue is time for women and the day-to-day tasks?
Time is huge. Yeah. Time is huge. But I think all women have time for the things that are important to them, don't they?
Yeah.
Somehow we just have not understood how important sex is, not only for our husbands, but for ourselves, that we have just kept it at a little bit lower priority. And that can change. That's kind of one of my number one jobs, is to help women change that.
To help them down that path and through that process. We're going to dive into some of these tips, these secrets of sexually satisfied wives. And you say the first is, you kind of already touched on it, that women embrace their sexuality. Yeah,
I was really interested to see that in a recent research article that one of the factors in women that have low sexual desire is they have an asexual self-view. Well, that means that they just don't even see sexuality as part of their beingness at all. And if that's the case, then everything else we're trying to do to build the marriage, to build the relationship, is kind of for naught. Because if you can't even imagine that it's part of who you are, part of who you should be, you're at a loss.
Okay, your next tip is, you say women who are sexually satisfied get educated sexually. And I think the big question is how? How do you do that?
Sure, yeah. Getting educated. I mean, for a lot of people, it's kind of a scary thing to even think about reading a book about sex. Or there's a lot of, you know, difficulties. How to do it, there's kind of 3 ways I suggest. Number one is read a book. Read my book. I mean, I wrote this book because I felt like we didn't have something that really gave us in-depth yet respectful information to really help with some of the issues we face. So reading books, attending seminars, attending classes, going on couples cruises that I have done, different things like that. And number 3, probably the most important, is getting educated between husband and wife. You've got to do a lot of practice and talk about what you're doing to find out what makes your spouse feel loved and what they enjoy or don't enjoy, because no book can teach you that.
And we know the husbands aren't going to complain about the practicing, right? When it comes to the reading and the research, though, the seminars, is that something you should do together?
It's always ideal, but I'm all for, I really believe in the concept that it only takes one person to change a marriage. I don't buy the it takes two. I think one person can change things enough and change the dynamics to be more positive that the other can then engage a little more easily.
Okay, your next secret is sexually satisfied wives overcome their inhibitions.
Yes, there are a lot of different inhibitions that can get in the way. Relational, mental and emotional thoughts and feelings, different things like that, and sexually satisfied wives make it a priority to overcome those things.
How do you do that, though? One that comes to mind, body image. A lot of women maybe struggle with their body image. How do you overcome that?
Well, that's a huge one, but really you know, one of the things about a sexually satisfied wife is she likes herself. She's made peace with herself. She's made peace with her body. Sometimes it's just a matter of looking at yourself in a mirror a little more often and just saying, you know what? I accept myself the way I am. I accept my legs, even though, you know, and don't go with even though. Just, I accept whatever parts of the body that you struggle with.
Okay, your next tip is the sexually satisfied wife savors sexual feelings.
I love this one because it's so opposite what we hear. For a man, their general challenge is to bridle and master those sexual thoughts and feelings. But for a woman, she needs to cultivate and nurture that. And a couple of ways to do that is, you know, chick flicks get a really bad rap, but chick flicks really help a woman to think about those feelings. And I like to say, teach women to kind of catalog those, save them, so that when you are in an opportunity, you can kind of recall those thoughts and feelings and have that kind of fuel your fire.
So basically we're keeping it top of mind for women, thinking about it throughout the day when maybe you might not normally do. And
even with music, I mean, it's just a matter of knowing that that a woman needs to actually cultivate and be conscious of it. A man, it's pretty natural, pretty, you know, reactionary almost.
We got to work on it a little bit.
We got to work.
Okay, your final tip, that leads right into your final tip, which is a sexually satisfied wife nurtures playfulness.
Love this one. Playfulness is really that spice that you put into the relationship, and it makes all the aspects of the relationship good, but especially the sexual relationship, because it can be a pretty interesting kind of a subject. But if you can be playful with each other, if you can tease, I mean, we forgot how to flirt. We need to flirt again.
Between husband and wife, we need to keep that flirting up.
Yes, make it fun.
Okay.
And that really helps make all of the aspects of sexuality better.
Well, great tips. And you are tapping into kind of a not talked about often subject. So thanks for dropping by to do that. We appreciate it. There are 12 secrets available. We've posted Laura's entire article, Secrets of Sexually Satisfied Wives, on our website with a link to her website. If you want to check out her book, And They Were Not Ashamed, Strengthening Marriage Through Sexual Fulfillment, you can visit her website, StrengtheningMarriage.com.